Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is markets in the morning. Let's go. My intro is there it goes. There it goes. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price chart and the altcoin market, as we get ready for the stock market to open up in about 30 minutes from right now. We'll take a look over there at precious metals. We'll take a look over there at the DXY. I've got a lot of charts built out for us today because, of course, it has been an absolutely wild week over here. So I hope that you all are doing okay. It's been a busy week for me, for sure. It's been a hectic week, as you can probably imagine. And I'm sure there will be a lot of different questions involved in this live stream in here, and that's totally fine. So I hope that you all are doing well, and we'll kind of dive into everything going on in the markets. As you all know, for the last week, we tried to present things from the bear side, right, and show things from the different perspectives and looking at it through that lens. So we'll kind of still do that today and talk about those things. Obviously, the crowd is very opposed to that idea, but I do still have those concerns in there right now. Especially over the next couple of days. So we'll see how things kind of transpire, but I'll go through all of these charts. I've seen some of the kind of super chats coming in before we've even gotten started. People being like, why are you using Fourier cycles? I thought you thought it was a meme. Yep, totally, man. But it's all the other things built on top of it. So I think, it's natural. It's a hard time in moments like this. You get the world kind of crashing down around you when you're trying to do your job the best that you possibly can and relay the data as best as you possibly can and just doing it in an informative, data-driven way. And there's no real other job in the world that is like this, where when you do that, you get assaulted. But I look forward to this moment passing by, but at the same time, I try not to take it personal. But of course, there is like a mental checkout that has to do a little bit to not consume all of that, because it does get overwhelming. It does cause you to snap a little bit and take a little bit of a step back from it all. And I don't blame people for being worried or concerned or upset. Because that's a natural reaction. I've been in this market for a very long time. We've been through several peaks. We've been through several troughs together. And when the market's down, people are yelling at me when I'm bullish. When the market's up, people are yelling at me if I'm presenting bearish stuff. And that's just kind of how it goes. The market is a game of buyers and sellers. And, there's always opposing forces on both sides. And that's going to be how it is. So there's always going to be opposing opinions. And clearly, obviously, right now, the majority are on one side, which is pretty obvious with how violent it is right now on one side. But we'll kind of dive into all of this stuff again and, paint the bigger, broader picture. I think people are trying to hyper-focus on, either Fourier cycles or on this thing or that thing. But it's really the bigger, broader picture. And, why do we even look at it in this way in the first place, right? And I think I wish I could remember what the triggering moment was. It feels like it's been like a blur for the last couple of weeks because I was like a workhorse for so long. I think I finally took Sunday off, but was like just staring at 1 minute charts all day, and then worked Monday, and then I did actually take yesterday off, which was the first day in like about 3 weeks. But I don't remember what it was exactly. Something happened where it seemed the crowd had acted. Maybe it was a lot of the Q4 stuff. It was presenting the idea of, hey, do you remember what Q4 was like in 2021? And in the violent reaction that saw that it was kind of like, wait a minute, maybe we got to take these blinders off for just a second. And one of those things too is that, once we got through the Fed rate cut, I'd kind of broadcasted for a while, September was a month I was planning on taking some profits on, and that I think maybe it was that, in that when that happened, the violent reaction to that said, wait a minute, do we need to actually like seriously look at this from the bear perspective? Because it doesn't seem the crowd is in any way in that shape or form. And so, do I need to take my blinders off at the same time rather than looking at this through the lens of just being, Russell breakout, XRP going to break out, all this rotational stuff happening in here. But do we need to look at this through the lens of a serious look through the bear side? And I think it was probably the reaction that people had and how violent that was. And violence, it's a descriptive word, but the anger and animosity and craziness of doing something like that it was like, we got to really look at it. We need to build a bear case. We need to say, wait a minute, what is the actual bear case here and can we present it? And so going through all that, it's trying to do it seriously from a data perspective. And, I'm fine with things if people want to present it from a data perspective to the other side. I just haven't run across it in my feed or been fed to me or mainstream narratives or anything like that of why. The clear thing that we've looked at for a long time has been this, what you have right here on the screen. So essentially the crowd wants something different to happen from here. But this has been my perspective of where, we're going to build a top at. I've been real clear to say, I don't really know what this top is going to look like, right? I've been real clear on that and even kind of poking fun at myself and poking fun at TA to say up, sideways, or down. I don't really have a way to tell you what I think it's actually going to transpire to look like. If it's going to just roll over and go straight down, if it's going to do an ABC, if it's going to set a new peak, how it's going to be. I don't really know. But I have ideas that I'm going to present in here, and I've presented in my video that I posted on Saturday and on the video that I put out on Monday. But nothing changes on this, right? So people say, "Oh, well, 4-year cycle, that's a meme. How could you talk about that?" And it's like, well, it's just more of just kind of like the irony of it. That here we are, and there's the irony of that. But the reason it's being poked at the same time was really more to show how the crowd is behaving. The crowd is behaving that this time is different. The crowd is behaving that for 4 years, block reward halvings matter, 4-year cycles matter, and then when you get there, no, this time is going to be different. The crowd now dismisses that. So the crowd's mentality has changed, which is fascinating to me. Not that it even matters. Not that the 4-year cycle or the timing of the 4-year cycle even matters, but simply to say, hey, they cared about this for a really long time. Now suddenly they don't. They say it's stupid. But it was a thing they held on to for a really long time. So it's interesting, right? But getting to these prices is, going through all of this stuff, right? Would I be a hypocrite, right? To say, hey, this is my idea, and now that we're here, I'm going to take some profits. Would I be a hypocrite to say, hey, by the way, I was just kind of BSing you along the way, and we're going to the moon, right? Sign up for the Blockchain Backer newsletter, and we're going to go to the moon together, right? I don't know, man. But so we're here, right? We're at the prices where I have not believed in $150,000 Bitcoin. I have not believed in a $200,000 or $250,000 Bitcoin. This has kind of been where I thought we would get to. In all of our discussions, right? And that, the next thing would be, eventually this thing tops out and we go back and revisit, at a minimum 69K. So we're here, right? So no surprise there, right? That shouldn't catch anybody by surprise that I'm looking at it through that lens, because if you've watched any of my content for the last 8 months, this is what you have seen. So we're here, right? A thing that's interesting, of course, this chart's going to break when that happens. Let's see. Can I go here? Will this allow this? No. All right, we have to rebuild this. That's fine. It only takes a second. I clearly have presented the unequivocal data that crypto moves with the stock market, right? And, obviously this has been the discussions of Bitcoin here for the last several months, getting into these areas and building this. Uncertain how this would look because it just started kind of deviating really right around here, right? On, oh boy, is this not going to look like this? Is this going to look like a retrace, rollover, or is it going to look like, eventually one more stab up higher? But you can look over here to the Dow to see that it is still just doing exactly that. That all the phases in here are in here, right? And here's your ABC correction. Here's your ABC backtest of the high, your ABC backtest of the high. Then the question comes into play of how deep into this are you? How deep into a parabola are you right now on the Dow? You could argue you're somewhere in there. Whether you've already peaked, whether there's a couple more pushes, you're likely somewhere in there. That's my thoughts on the Dow. So when I released my video on Saturday, I had said in there, I had included these waves on there. I said, I think that eventually the bottom's going to drop out of the stock market. I think whether or not this is wave one, of a 5-wave parabola in wave 5, or if it's already at the top of wave 5, right? If it's already completed, my thoughts are we're probably in there, right? So add all of that together, it feels like a game of hot potato, right? Hot potato, who's got the hot potato? And everybody is on this same page of Q4 is going to be a rampage bullish month and we're all going to get mega rich together, but don't you dare sell before me. I want to sell before you, before everything falls apart, right? That's kind of the mentality of everybody, that it is a game of hot potato right now for Q4. However, my thoughts are this is likely Wyckoff distribution that is happening for Bitcoin up here at these highs. And that we've done the phases of Wyckoff distribution in here. That would be equivalent to what it would be like pushing here, drawing in the crowd, drawing in the euphoria, drawing in everybody to be violent towards the bears, right? And I'm not even saying I'm a bear, but to present to that side, it's extreme violence. So that's the concern I have too, is that we are just doing Wyckoff distribution. This is an upthrust after distribution into price areas that are not a surprise, right? So you look at it through that lens, if this is an upthrust after distribution, right? Then you have to start weighing your odds, and that's the way I think. I have to start weighing my odds and say, okay, so if this plays out similarly to like late 2021, where in Q4 it does an upthrust after distribution, what really happened in Q4 of 2021? Because that's the part that is the craziest part of it all to me. When I go onto X and I see all the YouTube videos out there with the titles and the thumbnails, here's Q4, get ready, it's going to get epic. I look back to Q4 and even reflect on me, right? How we did the upthrust after distribution and then it rolled over, right? And thinking that there would be some type of epic alt season that would come in Q4, that would come after the peak of Bitcoin came in, right? We saw that in 2017 and 2018, right? When Bitcoin peaked in December of 2018, it fell from the highs. It did a retrace and the altcoins went absolutely bananas, including XRP. It's where it goes from like 20 cents to $3.30, right? That was the most epic time ever. But that wasn't what happened in Q4 of 2021. It totally just deteriorated. And that's the part of the Q4 narrative that no one talks about on Twitter. And so I keep presenting that because that was a dark time here, right? That was rough in 2021 and 2022 as we go into that and still kind of holding on hope for it, thinking that it would come. But what we did was we pretty much did a bearish divergence for a new high on Bitcoin. And it turned out that really the peak of the mania had happened practically a year prior, right? The peak of the mania happened like back in April and in May of 2021. And an example of that, of course, was like with Hedera, right? And I've shown this example in here to say, hey, look, this is what the market did back then, where it has the first one, and then there's a bearish divergence with an upthrust after distribution. But Q4 sucked. I don't know why that is not presented in the Q4 discussions over there on Twitter of what Q4 was truly like in 2021. But there was a curveball that was thrown. And that curveball was that really, it was just the alt season was the post-election breakout, right? That's what ended up happening. And then we end up having this end up occurring. And then it just deteriorates and Q4 sucked, right? There was no alt season. There was no anything. Like you had very few assets do anything meaningful. Well, reflect back on it, and like you can always hang your hat. You say, well, remember Solana did, remember FTT did, remember Luna did. Luna, FTX both collapsed to zero, and Solana lost 97%, I think, afterwards, right? But that's in the back of my mind. And like, I don't know if I've really thought about it very heavily about that until late September when we finally got through the Fed cut. Right? Finally, we're in the cutting cycle, right? What happens with cutting cycles? There tends to be some type of little rally that happens in the cutting cycle, right? And then the market absolutely nosedives, right? Markets nosedives into cutting cycles, right? Little rally, nosedives into it, right? And to get into the cutting cycle, right? All the narratives, right? The Fed's cutting, the money printer's turning on. We have the bearish divergences on Bitcoin. We're doing upthrust after distributions. And nobody is paying attention, and the narrative of Q4. And that's when it was like, all right, man, I think we got to build the case. How do you can we build it from the other angle and show it being different and being more like 2021? And that's when I saw the bearish divergences and the MACD rollovers on the weekly time frame over there on Bitcoin and said, crap, this is exactly like 2021. It's like identical. Then you get to XRP, right? So we talked about this, right? And been like, all right, what it was brought up in Markets in the Morning, which I'm so glad somebody asked me one day, what would be the thing that would get you concerned about the, $7, $8, $9, $10 area and it not manifesting? And I gave a pretty clear answer on that. And I said, hey, if it starts to look like what Cardano looked like, to where rather than building like an ABC up in here, it really just peters around here and continues to hit on top of the 618 Fibonacci retracement level. If it just continues doing that, it's going to open up doors of concern for me. Sure enough, this doesn't look like an ABC correction to me. It just continues to do this bouncing on top of this 618 Fibonacci retracement level. And I said, okay, well, let's go look at other charts and can we build this case? Can we say that we're doing exactly what we did in 2021, where we've had our post-election breakout? That's our alt season. This time, most assets don't set a new high like Hedera did back here, but instead, XRP is the one to set the high this time, and things have tapered off. Because where were we in the market when we were in these phases right here? Where was Bitcoin in this phase right in here? And it was in that second rally. It was in that upthrust after distribution when the bearish divergences were emerging on the weekly time frame. So we have this market dynamic that is looking in today's price action, right? Today, very similar to what it looked like during the second rally of Bitcoin, where there was a bearish divergence and the altcoin market had its big epic move happen back at the post-election breakout, and that we're just waffling around in here. And so when you look at it through that lens, right, and if you say, let's look at it through the bear lens of what that looked like, then you're left with something like that. This is Cardano. This is H-bar. I'm not cheering for it. But what was happening here? It was the up thrust after distribution of Bitcoin on the bearish divergence weekly time frame when these things occurred. So you look at this right here, right? This is Cardano, and this is that time frame, right? Here it is, still holding on top of the 618. There's a little push that happens in here on the up thrust after distribution, right? Right in here, right? Do you have that here, right? Where you've pushed back above 786 on the up thrust after distribution, right in here, right? And then that's it, right? If that's the case, there should be a lot of pissed off people. I mean, just straight up, right? I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I'm concerned that it could be until the market dishes out some information. Now, I will say this. The move that we did right here, it's not favoring up. That move right there leads me to still be concerned that maybe we get a little bit of a rally, but something's got to change big here very quickly, or I think we could see a liquidation within the next week. Maybe even as soon as tomorrow. Okay? Not going to predict time because people are going to say, oh, we got through tomorrow. We're safe. I don't know. But I'm concerned about it. So until things completely manifest and change, right? So the question becomes, how do you bet the farm, right? How do you say others didn't just struggle in here, right? It got back to this breakdown right in here. That's it. This is Wyckoff distribution. It gets back into retraces and then it rolls over and heads down. How do you bet the farm on that, right? That's the hard part right here of where you are and how you're going to bet the farm on it. That's the way I look at it. The other thing, too, that we've talked about, of course, here on the channel, to build the bull case, right? The bull case has been, hey, when we saw all the price action happen in the cryptocurrency market back in 2021, it takes place during the double bottoming of the DXY. So here we are, we look at all of this, and then we say, all right, there you go. All right, we are beyond that. We are beyond the double bottoming of the DXY. It's starting to march up higher now. Is that it? Are we past it, right? So these are all data points, right? Bearish divergences on Bitcoin, price action that's very similar to what happened back in the second half of 2021. Reflecting back on what is Q4, right? In Q4, if you painted it in truth rather than in hype, Q4 was not a bull run for crypto, right? That is Q4 right there. And that's the truth for most altcoins, right? So you say, all right, well, is that possible right now? It could be, right? It could be. If you want to think it's going to be like 2017, that's fine. By all means, go for it. But we're beyond this too. So like it becomes this weird conflict for me of coming on here and saying, hey, okay, so we've now gotten to the price levels I thought we would get at. We've gotten into the cutting cycle. The DXY is beyond the double bottom. Gold just keeps ripping. Silver, $49. What does that mean? Or is doom coming? How do you get beyond these things? Like this, and all the bearish divergences on Bitcoin, and say, hey, none of that matters. Right? Be honest here. How do I come on here and say, none of that matters? This time is different. This stuff doesn't mean anything this time, guys. How do I do it? I can't. It's not possible. Not for any type of credibility or just grifting to whatever the crowd wants me to say. So the Russell, right? The Russell, why is it not busting out of here? That's the thing that's got me concerned at the same time, right? That it's just been really waffly in here. right? Not the strongest moves happening here on the indicators to indicate any type of major breakout. That could always change, right? And so I tried to present that too in yesterday's video to say, hey, what would be things that would like negate a lot of this stuff, right? Those are things that we kind of need, right? Well, if Bitcoin ripped to like 135, well, it would probably destroy the bearish divergences that are on the weekly time frame. It would probably break that MACD back up and get it to close higher. Okay, so if you shot to 135, 140 or something on Bitcoin, it probably breaks that. If the Russell just busts out of here, great. If the DXY breaks down and sets a new low, you've just now destroyed a lot of these things, right? But right now, they're not. Right now, they're all there. So that's not opinions, that's just data, right? They all sit there. You're still left with this. That is this just the post first cut pop in the stock market, like we tend to see before things roll over. And I've stuck very strong with this opinion here in the market. And we even saw that over here, right? You got a little bit of a cut, the market popped, but then it completely stalled out, right? So how do I get to here? So imagine me being fully long, okay? I'm fully long, I don't sell anything. And then we get here into the chat, okay? We come into markets in the morning and somebody says, hey, BCB, you've said that we typically crash when we get into cutting cycles. You typically say the top comes in after we double bottom over here on the DXY. Why are you still fully long? How do I answer that? I don't know. I just have a feeling, right? That's what I have to do, right? And so I try to remove feelings and just say, here are things, right? And so you get all the bearish divergences. You get these setups that are concerning over here on these price charts happening. And then you enter the Fed cut. You get the double bottom on the DXY. And you got the price targets hit over here for Bitcoin, right? So all of those things combined, how do you say, I'm all in? Yeah, hard. Now, what's different, right? That's the thing, right? So what's different? Ethereum looks good. It looks good. Now, what I don't know is if that's going to be a product of like what we're seeing with BNB, right? BNB is like one of the only runners that we see in the market right now, whereas everything else really isn't. We'll look at this really fast. So this is kind of a snapshot of what Plumptober has actually looked like. This is the top 20 coins by market cap to give you kind of an idea on what the market has looked like here so far in October. There are two coins that are not on here because CoinTrader Pro did not have them available for me. And unfortunately, they're the two biggest data outliers there are. One of them is Mantle. Mantle's the only other coin in here that is showing any type of meaningful rise like Binance Coin is. It's actually up here. And then Hyperliquid was one that they didn't have available. And Hyperliquid happens to be our biggest loser. So I don't actually have our biggest winner and our biggest loser on this chart. But you get kind of a ballpark idea of what the market truly looks like right here, right? Eliminate the October 1st pump, right? And go to October 2nd. And what does this market look like for October so far for the last 7 days? The majority of them are in the red, right? So this is our zero line. Right, you can see since October 2nd, Monero's up 3%, Bitcoin is up 2.5%, Ethereum is up 2.5%. Then the rest of them, you got a few of them that are there. You got 4 coins that are 0.12% to 0.77%. Then everything else is negative. To kind of give you an idea of since that first October 1st, where everybody's like, it's Pumptober, right? There's been no real follow through. However, Ethereum, still, I look at this technical structure, right? So like, let's not just be like full-blown bears, right? Let's not just say, hey, everything is mega bear, we're doomed, right? Present it from the other side too, right? I look at Ethereum and I say, that looks strong, right? So if that looks strong, right, do I think it could break out? The structure says it could. If the market completely liquidates with it, well, then it's not. Then it's going to look weird, right? Then I'd be like, right down to here, that'll look awkward. But in its current state today, right, it doesn't look any different of what it would look like being bucked up against a high to go to a breakout. I don't know if this market liquidates and if that's going to do something to it. But the way it looks currently right now, that would be your bull argument, right? That, hey, this looks fine. And so if that's going to break out, what does that likely mean? That would likely mean that the Russell's going to break out. And if that's going to happen, what's likely going to happen? The altcoins are going to break out, right? So that would be your bull argument right there, right? The Bitcoin dominance, right? So we've talked a lot about Bitcoin dominance, but we can even look at this through the lens of the safety trade dominance, because we've talked about this a lot too. Does that look bearish? I mean, this looks bearish, but that's good for the market, right? That is the kind of setup you have before you go crumbling down. And that's going to include Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, USDC dominances, right? So that would mean the remainder of the altcoin market would be outperforming Bitcoin and outperforming Ethereum. So that would be your bullish argument, right? You have that bullish argument right there. And I think that's probably the thing that people are grasping onto the hardest for the strong bull argument. And that makes sense, because for me too, it's why I can't go full 65% bear, 70% bear with my portfolio into cash, and then restructure the whole portfolio into Bitcoin and top alts because of this. This right here is what's leaving me to say I gotta gamble a little bit, right? Because of that. How else do I do it, right? So that, like, there's your bull argument, right? So you have Ethereum structurally looking appropriate, and then you have that structurally looking appropriate of what happens before things get epic, right? Then you say to yourself, how could the altcoin market get back to this all-time high and then fail, right? I mean, come on, who really believes that, right? How much of an idiot do you have to be to think that, right? Like, come on, it's got to bust out, right? And that's a fair argument, man. Fair. It seems like it would be really unlikely, right, to get there and to do that, that it would bust out, right? So, like, you look at it through that lens, you look at it through that lens, you look at it through that lens, and you say, okay, yeah, like, pretty fair argument. Except for that one time. In 2021, where, like, we got annihilated, right? We got utterly annihilated back at the high. It was a different time, right? This was the April and May time of the market, but we saw, like, this was where the liquidation was so annihilatingly bad. There was like, before you knew it, I'll never forget it, because my portfolio got slammed so dang hard. The liquidation event was so massive that we definitely can reject off at the highs. And so, you look at the structure build up, the kind of climb to get there. Are we mimicking that type of climb as we're trying to get here right now, right? So the crowd, of course, celebrated that it poked above and closed above the other day. And then yesterday, of course, it whipsaws right back down below. We saw that with the Russell 2000 at the exact same time. So, it's a fair argument, to be back at the high and think it's not going to, come on, you really think it's not going to bust out of here? It can happen where that's the area where things struggle, where you get that altcoin market back to the high, you get Bitcoin up to the price levels that we're looking for, you get the bearish divergences emerging, you got the structures emerging, you get into the cutting cycle, you get into the DXY double bottom, you got gold blasting, you got silver blasting trying to get through. A lot of stuff going on right now, and the question is, how do you take all of this data, right? If you take in all the bull data and you take in all the bear data, how do you take it all in and be strongly convinced one way or the other? That's the challenge that I have right now. How do I look at this and be utterly convinced that isn't going to happen? I can't. It's real hard for me to say I don't think that's going to happen, because it just looks like it's going to happen, right? But how do I look at this and not think that it's the top of Bitcoin? Well, I do think it's the top. So whether it's something I don't see right now or no more information has to be presented in the market, that there has to be some fall and then some retrace, or then the altcoins rallying to the retrace, or if there's not going to be an alt season like there wasn't in 2021, stop the Q4 stuff, guys. Knock it off. Get real with yourself. Study the data. Don't be convinced by the Q4 thing. And so that's the thing too. Like, you got everybody long. So how much leverage is in this system right now? How many people are maxed long into Q4 right now? How much leverage buildup is there? I don't know. But how do you take in all of this at the same time and be utterly convinced with 100% certainty that's not going to be the outcome? Right? Right. I don't cheer for it. I don't want it. Right? And I can tell you this just coming at you from as a human being. Right. And in my position, right. Everybody think, the influencer, right. He doesn't have feelings. F him. I'm in a very interesting situation. I was having a talk with my wife about this yesterday. And both outcomes, I'm in a win-lose situation no matter what with where I'm at. It doesn't matter what happens in this market, I'll be in a win-lose. If the market rips, it'll be like, he sold 50% of his portfolio. What a clown, right? And so that'll be a scar on the blockchain backer brand, right? So that'll be a loss, but it'll still be a win because I got 50% of my portfolio, and that likely means the altcoin market is absolutely getting shot to the upside, and I'm making a tremendous amount of money at the exact same time. So it's a win-lose at the exact same time. If the market falls, okay, it was right. There was some data there that was concerning, and there was things that were concerning. That was the correct view to have. Okay. But then the amount of money that I have in the portfolio is going to get annihilated at the same time. I'm still 50% long the market. I'm going to lose, right? But I will have taken 50% out, right? So it doesn't matter which way this goes. If there's at least right now, I don't see some end target that I'm shooting for here where it's like, I'm going to be right and I'm going to be celebrating in any way. It doesn't matter which way it goes. They're all going to be that way. That's a very weird time for me right now. It's a very weird time. I just wanted to talk to you about that as a human. It's a very bizarre moment in time for me currently right now. But yeah. So I think there will be a lot of information printed on the charts here in the next week. The thing that I think that has me, I don't like to play timing guesses. I really don't like to play timing guesses at all. Do not believe a word I say in like feelings or what I think about timing. But I did expect this fall on Tuesday. And I forecasted that out a few days ahead of time, that I thought it would be Tuesday when it would end up happening. If that ends up continuing, right, then it would be that we're not done. That here in the next few days, we'll see it keep going. So hopefully that gets proven wrong. I certainly don't cheer for that. Okay. So when people think, there's a stigma on crypto Twitter that when you present anything, he must be destroyed, right? It's a classic meme of crypto Twitter to always destroy the person with bearish stuff. But at the same time, people get very mad when no one presents that in the thick of the moment. And it's a very good social study right here to see what happens for people who are actually critical thinkers and who do go to social media to gather information when you're trying to build a thesis of the market, that you can clearly see that the opposing perspective is never welcomed. It must always be the positive perspective. It must always be the super up perspective. And if that perspective is not presented, it's very bad, right? So when you consume social media content, to be aware of that there's not an incentive to show the opposing side, but always the incentive to show the upside. So just keep that in mind for yourself. And it's not to say I'm fully convinced this is going to happen. Just there's a lot of confluences that say it could. And I sure hope it's not. But I have to sit there and play the middle ground on it right now with where we're at and how the market looks today. Will it look different a week from now? Will it look different 2 weeks from now? Maybe. And then maybe it cancels a bunch of stuff out, right? Maybe DXY crashes and it goes and sets a new low. The Russell gets a clear breakout. Ethereum gets a clear breakout. And suddenly the picture is just very different. That could totally happen. But today, in this current moment, this is what it looks like. So we'll see how it goes. It looks like we've got a turnover there on the Russell this morning, heading back down, right? All these little lines are really just marks of past peaks, past candle closes. And so we're just, of course, bouncing around in between all of them right now. There hasn't been anything truly convincing this. What's been real interesting each morning for the last several days is that like the market opens and acts kind of chaotic and then sells off. The market opens, acts kind of chaotic, and then sells off. And then here we are again. The market just opened 13 minutes ago. A little bit up, and then the opening happens. Boom, sells off. So we're seeing sell-offs happening right into the market opening for the last 3 days. At least over here on the Russell. Yeah, the Dow goes too. See, look at that. We keep seeing that. I don't know if they're like doing short chasing first in the beginning to go crush shorts and then selling off hard afterwards. It's interesting. All right, so there you go. It's still, how long have I been talking? Oh my gosh, I'm 41 minutes into it. Still expected that the Fed is going to be cutting at the next meeting come October 29th. So there you go. It's still expected that they're going to do another 25 basis point rate cut. As for the news, borrowers head back to riskier mortgages, looking for any potential savings. Stock futures rise slightly after S&P snaps losing streak. How to spot coins before they get listed on Binance or Coinbase. Of course, the market's trying to create Binance meta right now, right? Like this is where it is. This is where the meme coin chasing is going to happen now. Right? We're trying to create a new meme coin chaos right now over there on Binance. What to expect as U.S. government shutdown enters the second week. EU eyes crypto oversight under ESMA to end fragmented supervision. Early crypto gems, how to discover them first. Price predictions, blah, blah, blah. BNB chain meme coins mint new millionaires in wild trading week. Like I said, Bitcoin risks plunge to 114K as predatory traders squeeze Bitcoin longs. Aster delisting exposes DeFi's growing integrity crisis. Gaming giants in talks with Immutable to launch tokens. Web3 gamer. Make AI prove it has nothing to hide. All right, here we go. We're hopping into the chat, and I got to somehow get through the chat in a matter of 20 minutes. But before we got started, of course, Chief Tane came out swinging. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to go into this markets in the morning today. I'm going to get annihilated by my audience. Thank you, dude. Thank you so much. And Edward Lang, I saw you coming through too, man. We'll get to you in a minute, man. Oh my gosh, did I not play the frog today? No way. Hold on. No way. Hold up. Dude, like I knew, I was like, oh man, we're gonna have a lot to talk about today. We'll just, Hey guys, happy Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my It is Wednesday,
All right, there we go. And then we'll make sure we don't play any of that. There we go. I think we're good. All right, hopping into the chat, man. Again, Chief Tane Blackbeard, my man, thank you so much. Arm Day. Hola, BCB. Kind of confused of any hope for XRP anymore. 4+ years of XRP price action only at $3. No near future view of XRP of $8 to $10, right? So I've pretty much brought it up 1,000 times that if it started looking like what we saw with Cardano, that would be the concerning thing. And as we've watched it over the weeks and months, it has continued to do just that. So without some big change, we need to see some broader change in the market happening in here. Really simple as that, guys. Simple as that, right? Arm Day. Hola, BCB. Bobby Axe replied to your October 4th post, charts and analysis. Any thoughts or takes? I don't really look at other people's analysis. My job is not to sit here and like argue against other people's analysis. I really stay in my own lane. I do my own research, my own thoughts. When you watch my content, I'm guaranteeing it. Guaranteeing it. You're not seeing this exact content on the other channels unless if their content is posted after mine. Because everything here is original. This is all my work. I spend a tremendous amount of time here doing this. So I try to not look at other people's work, to not get incorrectly influenced. I've done it in the past. When I look at other people's stuff, it screws with me and it makes me get stuff wrong. Way more. It's not that I'm 100% by any means, right? But more wrong, right? When looking at other people's stuff. So I can present all the data that I see. Go consume other content. Go look at other people and listen to their argument. You may be able to poke holes in mine by looking at other people's arguments. If the arguments are trust me, bro, with other people, right? That's not what I'm doing here, right? And I'm not asking you to trust me in any way. What I'm trying to say is here's the data. Here's what it looks like. Here's what's happened historically when this type of data was presented, right? Is it guaranteed it's going to do the exact same thing? No, not at all. But when we've seen these series of events line up, which we call confluence, this is what the market has done. And so to consume it, if you think it's stupid, cool. No problem. I think there's a lot of holding hope on other influencers that maybe they see something, but they're not sharing it publicly. Like, what is it that you see exactly? We're going to 300,000. Okay, can you show me why? Trust me, bro. So, this is all the data. Consume it. Think whenever you want of it. And then Armed ABCB, that 4-year Bitcoin top wasn't real. Meme pick on XLego, but now you're using it to justify selling. So, right. So, again, I think people are hearing what they're wanting to hear. You're selling because it's exactly the 4-year cycle date. That just happens to be occurring while all these other things are occurring, guys. That happens to be happening when we have finally started Fed cuts. It happens to happen after the DXY is double bottom. It happens to happen when the charts present themselves this way. It's just another little check mark you could add to it. But Arm Day, thank you. JB Estrada, member for 22 months, my brother, says the emotional bursts are all over the place. It seems to me that retail is being primed to buy the top. We're going to see some amazing reactions. Well, I don't cheer for that by any means. So again, I don't cheer for people to get wrecked. I was talking with my wife about this too, that, when a doctor performs a surgery, which of course, or does any type of work, which you guys know, we've been dealing with a lot of stuff with my mother-in-law. We had a surgeon and a doctor tell us, that their number one priority is do no harm, right? I think of that when it's anything. Like, the intention is never to harm. The intention is never to troll. The intention is never to play a bad guy, right? And I certainly don't cheer for this market to crash. I certainly do not cheer for people to lose money. I certainly do not cheer for some massive liquidation to happen. They just could. But I don't cheer for it, for people to get hurt. Michael, Fat Boy Slim, my brother, thank you very much. He says, if you sure XRP back to 240 around mid-December, would you be a buyer based off the theory of prolonged cycle into Q2 of 2026, like what Raul Paul suggests? I'd have to see it at the time. Right now, I don't have any plans of buying a liquidation if one shows up right now. I'd need to let the market present its new structure of whatever's going on at that time and then assess it at that time. Mauricio Salinas, my brother, thank you very much. Mauricio Salinas, member for 20 months. Gold is oversold. I think he meant overbought. With a monthly RSI at 91. It will chill at some point and let alts run. Maybe. Hard to say that with a monthly chart at 91. What's to say it doesn't keep going for 3 more months and go to 95? You know. There's Edward Lang, who had gifted 100 memberships. Edward, you do it every time, man. I'm so grateful. Thank you in the chat. It's grateful, man. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Kevin Melder, I appreciate you and your channel and your Substack. Kevin, thank you. Just kind words. I'll take a break and enjoy that for a second. And now let's move on. Armday says, I am retail and I don't want to buy the top. Oh, well. Yeah, well, that might be because you're consuming my content. My content is like, right? But that's not what Twitter looks like, right? PH team member for 47 months. Spicy BCB for the win. Man, 1 month away from 4 years. Thank you very much, man. New wave counseling. We appreciate you. Even if there's lots of questions. Oh, for sure. Then the questions are fine. The questions are understandable. Thank you. And Armday says, all love BCB, but not going to lie, these two charts don't look the same you have next to each other. Yeah, well, these are just different tops, right? This would be a distribution top. This is a parabolic top. Yeah, I've been real clear. I don't know which one I think it's going to be. If it's going to be a retrace or that's it, or if it's going to do that. Right, because here's the deal too, right? So for everybody who's like bull on Bitcoin, if this thing shoots up higher, where are you targeting? Where's your number? What numbers have you come up with yourself that are not being a trust me bro on an influencer on Twitter or on YouTube? Just curious. If your thing is I'm relying on the trust me bro, right? And it shouldn't be a trust me bro on me. It just shouldn't be, right? You got to, everything is on you. Here's the data. Consume it. Does it have merit? We'll see. We are all trying to predict the future in real time. Bulldog 589 gifted 5 memberships. Brother, thank you. Andreas Silder, I appreciate it, Bulldog, man. Andreas Silder, if Bitcoin falls from here, could you still see a retrace later where alts could go into with dominance final fall, or probably not even that? Thanks. Right. So that would have to be a theory, right? If you think, right, to remain 50% long, that has to kind of be the theory, I think. That there does become a fall in here. And whether or not it's like this, right, and it happens into something like that, or something like this, and it happens into that, or that it's just plain wrong, and off and away it goes, right? Those kind of have to be the theories for me to say, is there any path, right? Is there any path for that? But it would have to be one of those. But I can't put some like number on it to give you a conviction on it that I think it will. I can't give you like I'm 80% confident or I'm 50 or 30% confident on it right now. I think there's going to have to be a move in this market from where it's at right now. There's going to have to be a move from here, right? From the all-time high that it just keeps struggling and waffling around for something to show up first, right? And so we're at the all-time high. Mount Guyful. Did you do a journal? Were you shaken out in any percentage? I did a journal in 2018, but that was a very interesting one because that's when I was in sheer utter terror of horror, right? That was when Bitcoin fell from 6,000 to 3,000. And then we sat down there for 4 months and I was just journaling it the whole time while I was buying and all the horrible thoughts I had in that moment. And then when the market rallied back up, you got to watch my disbelief in the journal as it kept going up and up and up. And then when we got to the peak, you could see in my own journaling, I could see my euphoria as we get there to like $13,000, $14,000 in June of 2019. And that was the top. So I got to literally witness what it was like when we're falling and crashing, and to see what my depression was like, but still buying into it. And then watch what my euphoria looked like rising up into it. And so I got to really witness that as a retail investor. Here are the emotions that you experience in these types of things. Right? And that's when you're down, being depressed. And that's how we went through this whole thing, guys. Like, that's the crazy part, right? We go from June 2022, October 2023, in the depths of despair for well over a year, right? It's going to turn up. We got Wyckoff accumulation. It's going to get here. We get back to the highs now. How dare you? We are all bullish. How stupid are you? Like, okay. The big difference between selling here and selling here. Just saying. Brandon Hammond said, personally, I think it's insane to try to call a top of equities. Let's say I entertain the idea. From the bearish perspective, how do you explain Bitcoin dominance? Also, have you looked at the similarities of the current charts of Q4 2020? But why are we going to Q4 2020? Why are we going back 5 years? Right? Because those were different time periods. Like, even if you used equities at the exact same time, what was happening? You had the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500, and Russell 2000 breaking out together. They're all stuck in a range. They break out together in a broader expansion of markets all at the exact same time. This is different, right? You have the S&P, Dow, and NASDAQ way high, and you have the Russell still stuck down low. Doesn't mean the Russell's not going to break out and then it's going to get crazy and we're all going to have a good time. Okay, I cheer for that. Believe me. But to say they're similar and the same, they're not, right? So why people go back and go back to that time? Where was Bitcoin at that time? Right? In Q4 of 2020. Bitcoin was still below the 2018 all-time high. Right? Now Bitcoin's been above the 2021 all-time high for 11 months. We've been above the all-time high for 11 months now. So I appreciate it, Brandon. But you know, when with data, like, it's always like, is it exact? Right. Right. And then, yeah, the Bitcoin dominance, like, I keep showing that too. Right. And I've never come on here and presented this and said, this is all 100% identical. I've shown you all the things that are the same and then said, but there's some caveats to it. Right. And that's why it hasn't been a thing of I'm 65% out of the market and like consolidate my whole portfolio into Bitcoin and Ethereum and blah, blah, blah. Because it's not that that isn't the right play. It could end up being the right play. But the caveat to it is that. Why hasn't that fallen? And that creates the difference, right? Lord Matty, what time is it? Oh my gosh. Okay. I appreciate you, dude. What would invalidate your bear thesis? Well, like it's not even that it's a bear thesis, you guys. It's that the data shows it. You have data points. So you have to break all those data points. You need to break the DXY down. You need to break the Russell out. You need to break the altcoin market out. You still are going to have that overhang of you're in a cutting cycle, and cutting cycles tend to lead to crashes. And then at the same time, all y'all are chasing some Q4 pump at the exact same time. Everybody's trying to play hot potato. That's the scary thing. Everybody's trying to play some Q4 hot potato and not get left holding the bag. That's scary because that means everybody's long. That means that just at the end of it all, what's going to happen? Everybody's still going to be everybody's going to be holding the potato. Everybody. So there would have to be a few of these things actually break. And then like I said, if Bitcoin broke up to like 135 or something like that, 140, it'd probably break the MACD back up with a close above, and then that would change it. PH Team Hub, how does this compare to the XRP late 2017 rally? It doesn't really. I can't believe how far behind I am. Oh boy. Night Shift, remember for 21, real people don't throw shade at others for their choices. They make it in regards to their own interests. The ones that do don't have a mind of their own. Yeah, and let's be real clear. 95% of people are awesome. Straight up. 95%. Right? And so like what we're talking about truthfully is about like 5% of the crowd kind of who are all over the place emotionally. 95% are kind of like calm and cool. It's just this 5%. Right. And how do I know that? Right. I look at the likes on my videos. Right. You guys are still smashing 4,000 likes on videos, even on things that are probably not things that you're like loving to hear. And so I know that the vast majority of people are still just good people and regular people, and they're just consuming data. And that's how most people are. It's just this particular sector of, and like people are emotional. People are gamblers, right? Like this is crypto, right? There's a lot of gamblers here. That's why there's the meme coin meta. Right? Like they all know they're not trading anything, right? There's no value there. It's fully just, how do I get in and dump on the next person before I get dumped on? And so it's all just this game of gambling. And so there's an emotional crowd that comes with it. AE, if this time is not different, wouldn't that just make it easy? Also, if no time is different, why was 17 different than 21? Everyone, even you, is comparing times. Why? What does different mean? Those seem like extremely theoretical questions. Why was 17 different than 21? Then what does different even mean? Yes, if markets were incredibly easy, we would all sell the top together and we would all buy the low together, guys. There wouldn't be differencing of opinions. What we will always know is that there will be a disagreement at the top and at the bottom. Go relive 2022 and 2023, and what was the agreement? It was going to 12K, right? That was the consensus of the crowd. So we know in what was the consensus at the peak of 2021? It's going to 100K. So the consensus of the crowd, whenever the peak happens, will always be wrong. And to always remember that. But this market is acting very similar in behavior, technically, of what we've seen before. And for that, how do I not? JJ Jacob, I expect a crash at the end of this week, dipping below September lows, strong recovery in alt season in November. Thanks to you, I have my own conviction on the charts. I love to hear it. The goal is to teach you how to do these things, set these things up, and create your own. Find something different, have your conviction, roll with it, man. Terrence Rafferty, I know we hate to say this time is different, but it is. We have a new dynamic with tariffs and timing of rate cuts. I suggest we may get a short period of breath extending longer into a rate cutting cycle. I think that's the consensus view of the market. Oh boy, I'm so far behind. Terrence, thank you very much. Very generous. I appreciate it, man. Crypto Horatio, consider placing Bitcoin dominance on Ethereum, similarities to 2020. Okay, I'll have to do that later, guys. Think I'm going to have to fly through this. Phil Walker, BCB, Tom Lee of Fund Strat has crushed stock market calls for years. No, he hasn't. And says Russell is going to run in Q4. What makes you think it will? Okay, so you don't know Tom Lee from the peak of every cycle. When Tom Lee is like the main character, that tells me you weren't here in 2017. Tom Lee was like main character on CNBC for a $50,000 Bitcoin when it topped at 19,600. Kathy Wood, main character of 2021, right? Famous words. Bull market is alive and healthy. Boom. Popped. So you don't think we'll get euphoria for the peak? Right. So here's another interesting data point too, because like the big question has been, where is the crowd? Right. And I went through like some Bitcoin data. This right here is the November of 2022 peak in regards to Bitcoin search data. All right, so this is the insanity euphoria of Elon Musk in April and May of 2021. This right here is November of 2021 when the peak came in for the secondary top for Bitcoin. I'm curious if we're in euphoria with how the crowd is acting. Martin says the crowd is bullish. Member for 21 months. Thank you. Market of G. Member for 28 months. Glued into the charts at the moment. It's intense and brutal, but I appreciate your honest thoughts. Shame that some people can't handle a different perspective. And it's less about even a perspective. It's just don't want to see the data of it. So, like, you have to understand that makes perfect sense. A lot of people oftentimes count their chickens before they hatch. And there's, of course, a lot of content out there. I guarantee, like, almost all these content creators have been through bear markets before. They know what happens. They know exactly what happens. That's not something you want to think about. Just saying. Keep the bull message alive. Stephen, Trump pump for XRP was an up thrust and currently an up thrust after distribution. And UK government lifted restrictions on retail and Bitcoin all-time high, making the news both on a Sunday. Top sign, in my opinion. I don't know about that, but like the thing that always sat weird with me with XRP was this, that the official case ending and the appeals got dropped at the 702 Fibonacci retracement, and that Brad Garlinghouse went utterly silent and never said a word. My wife and I talked about it constantly. Where is he? Why is he not commenting? Why is there silence? Why are they not saying a thing about it? That these things were filed and that the appeals are officially dropped. And he was quiet for like days, like a whole week, until the SEC finally posted something. Or Hester Pierce posted something, and then he retweeted it a week later. And I was thinking to myself, is he trying not to be blamed for drawing the crowd in right here? That was weird to me. And of course, you got David Schwartz resigning. That's weird. But, I don't know. Thank you, Stephen. Mitchell Wilson. The crowd is weird right now. There is no euphoria, and all the same time, they're angry at the bear. It feels more like anger that it couldn't happen than anger that it's going to stop. How do you process that? It again reminds me of the top of 2021, in November of 2021, that the crowd was really mad at that time too. The difference at then is, like, I too was convinced we were going to have an alt season then, that even though it was peaking, that it would have an alt season. The difference is, of course, the Bitcoin dominance had already dropped, which hasn't happened. But then having to reflect back on it, like, do I want to get caught wrong-footed with the very similar dynamics of what happened in late 2021? Yeah. And it is interesting that it is like, I can go on there and see euphoria. You pretty much get euphoria in particular moments. They come in bursts, right? Crypt Keeper. And the reason why it's struggling for real euphoria right now is because there hasn't been some Pumptober that everybody is saying. And that's kind of the argument I was arguing, is that there wasn't one in 2021. There wasn't a Pumptober. Crypto Keeper, Peter Brandt, flip bearish too. You turds. LOL. I don't usually comment on other people. Peter Brandt does follow me now, though. That was interesting. Maybe he watched my video. What if I'm setting off a right? That's going to be the thing too. BCB caused it. He's to blame. Right? He did it. SH said, did you sell 50% of the 65%? You're selling? No, straight up 50% whole portfolio. Mr. Wilson, what do you think about the thought of buying inverse short ETF shares on BTC and strategy to hedge? Is there a downside I'm not seeing? And screw the haters, dude. You're the go. Mr. Thank you very much. Yes, I have thought about that and have been logging into my brokerage accounts, looking at those. I don't know what happened to that chart. Okay. Yeah. I guess, but right. Loose Total, is there anything else that would force you to sell more before a crash, or are you holding 50% through a bear market? I'm not saying I'm going to hold 50% through a bear market. Just in the environment we're in today, this is where I'm sitting. And I don't have any intention of any major adjustments anymore at this point until there becomes a clearer picture at this point, right? Right now, if this market crashes and crumbles from here and there's some massive liquidation tomorrow, I will have that 50% will get whacked by it. If the market breaks out and roars with it, that 50% will roar with it, and the other 50%, I'll be a sideline pleb crying in the closet, right? Just kidding, but that's what it'll be. It would be sidelined. Then I'll have an ability to kind of reassess the information in that environment and decide. But where I am right now, this is just kind of where I have to be today. I don't feel I have enough information to say definitively one way or the other, because I can present both arguments with very strong cases. And I think that the bear case is very, very strong, and that's what makes me very uncomfortable. It's very strong, and that makes that hard to roll with 100% when there's that strong of a case. AC, why do you compare this cycle with 2021 only? It's not that I'm just comparing it to that. It's the behavior of the market. I'm showing you that, hey, these are the same things we mimicked back then. If we mimicked things from different time periods, I'd happily show that. But I don't have that. Crypto Keeper. XRP leading diagonal dating back to April. You mean ending diagonal? I don't know, man. Could you take a look at Zcash? The chart doesn't make much sense unless you take out the initial opening price. Yeah, you have to kind of remove the initial opening price and look at the rally of 2017. I'm not going to pull up altcoins today, guys. I do appreciate the super chat. We're already running very late. I'm already 12 minutes past how long I'm supposed to be. And I'm not anywhere close to where I'm supposed to. This stuff right now, I'm still way behind. It's kind of in retracement areas of where it is. Like, man, if there's going to be some type of alt seasonal, I would love it if it would be the privacy coins. It would be such good redemption. I've always said we're never going to use any of this stuff as money, which none of you do, unless if there was privacy features. The money, it has to be hidden. There's no choice. It has to be hidden. You get that with your bank right now. You get privacy on where you spend your money, how you spend your money, and you are FDIC insured with your bank. We're not going to use any of this as actual money when scammers are constantly stealing it from us. And when you get lost transactions, or if everybody can monitor everything. And we're not just talking about your neighbors doing it or anything like that. We're talking about scammers being able to see where you're spending your money. We're talking about companies being able to see where you're spending your money and understanding your buying and purchasing history. And you may not think that you care. Oh, if you have anything that you don't want anybody to see, you shouldn't be doing it. Baloney. Baloney. Amazer Fraser, member for 18 months. BCB, what a time. Here's hoping we rip up and drink a Coke on the moon. However, if it doesn't, I hope you realize it's all going to be your fault. Yeah, I know. It's all my fault. Eden Pedden, Levy BCB question. This time is different concept. 2021 is different compared to 2017. Therefore, 2025 is different from 2024. Can you reconcile? Right. I think everybody's looking for something different. You're left with information in front of you, guys. Deal with it with what you will. I think what you want is different. You want me to tell you something. I don't know if I can tell it to you. I can give you the data. Interpret it however you want. PH team, odds on S&P and Bitcoin crashing, ABC with RTY and alts taking off. I don't have an odds for you, buddy. 100x investing, BCB. People are saying there's bullish momentum and then a crash in Q4. Not all of Q4 is going to be euphoria. I think there's a misunderstanding. I think what you all are playing is a game of hot potato, like a meme coin. I think you're all playing a game of hot potato of who sells last loses. But you're all playing the same game of it's going to end soon, just not before I sell. And well, how much are you looking for, right? How high are you looking for it to go? This is your pack. October about 5% so far. 100x, 10x, 5x, what you looking for? You're at 5%. I think the average in Q4 of 2021 was 30%, and I'm not even saying we're going to get that. But the narrative of Q4 pumping and being crazy, that's definitely not what occurred in 2021. And Sam ADG, can a Bitcoin correction be possible leaving the alts to decouple using the thesis of dominance and the three coins breaking down? I don't know. I mean, maybe, but anything is always possible, right? I mean, that's the world of the reality of life. Like anything is, of course, possible, but you're trying to make I think we're all trying to make educated guesses. Right? And that's what we are all doing, is guessing and trying to absorb as much information as we can. And I've always been real clear, like these are the things I look at. I look at charts when I'm making my decisions, right? I try to eliminate as much of the noise and the narratives as I can. And most people don't do that. So then when you come out here and you're like, hey, like I see these things that make me kind of concerned, then people are like, what? How ridiculous are you, dude? You got a pro-crypto president. You got legislation coming down the pike. Like, I think Charles Hoskinson just went on camera yesterday and said we're going to $250,000 Bitcoin, and then the altcoins are going to explode. And he's like, there's some alpha for you. It's like, oh my God. Okay. We'll see. Bush Camp Dad, what's up, dude? I'm in stablecoins now after you went 50% cash, and I feel okay with it. Talking with Grok about maybe buying some stuff to get 50% back in, but maybe I'll just set out for now. To each their own, man. I've been clear about what I'm at. I need something to clear. I have to, like, just with all the data that I see that I've presented, that's where I got to be at 50%. We'll see what happens next, and then how do I make decisions after that? I'll be transparent, right? And that's what you get here. Right, whether people agree or disagree with the decisions that I make, that's not really a concern to me. It's more of like I just want to make sure that I'm just transparent. Flatliner streams, hey BCB, didn't sideline 50%, but I took my invested capital out. Thanks, looking for yours. You're the best, dude. Thank you. All right, guys, I made it to the end. I made it. I gotta go so bad. Guys, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. We'll see. Watch. I don't like predicting really short-term time frames. I just don't like doing it. We'll see how these next couple of days play out. Okay. If the things are nervous for me in regards to something happen, it's within the next couple of days. So we'll see what ends up happening. I don't want to predict it. I have a prediction. I do have a prediction of what I think is going to happen within the next 48 hours, but I know how crypto Twitter works. They just you can make that prediction and get it right, and you'll never hear about it again. But if you get it wrong, you will hear about it for the rest of your life. So I'm not going to do it. Just keep your eyes on the charts for the next couple of days. We'll see how everything manifests. Otherwise, I want to thank you all so much for being here. One more frog. Okay, you got it, dude. Here we go. Thank you all for being here.
It is Wednesday, my It is Wednesday,
All right, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like the live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for your questions. I know it's a crazy time right now. Thank you for the love. I'm grateful for all of you. Have a good one.